Alright, welcome to the Allen Street Gate. Now first, we're going to take a look back in time. So if everyone could please close their eyes, just briefly. And if we could all take a step forward. You can open your eyes if you have to take a step forward. Just come a little closer because it's kind of loud with this traffic. So if we can all close our eyes, please. And we're going to go back in time to the 1860s. This might be kind of hard for us to imagine, but think about what they're wearing, how many people there are. Penn State is just starting out. Penn State was only founded about 5 years ago, and the first class is just graduating. Construction of Old Main is just finishing up. Not very many trees on campus, and which ones are there are very young. Now, I want you to picture 2019, where we are in your typical day-to-day walk to classes. Maybe hear cars passing by, buses, people talking on their phones and listening to their AirPods, people zooming past on their scooters and bikes, all sorts of things. Please open your eyes. So, comparing 1860 to 2019 is very different. And while there's nobody alive today from the 1860s, and there's nobody here that really witnessed it firsthand besides these trees. These trees have seen Penn State grow, and today we're going to show you and explain to you a little bit more about the heritage trees and Penn State's history through these trees.
So, as we start here at the Allen Street Gates that were dedicated in 1916 by the class of 1916, we see a lot of trees in the background as well as to the sides. So, this location with the Allen Street Gates into the Allen Street Mall is one of the most historically photographed locations on Penn State's campus. And over here at the Old Main Lawn Grove, those trees are some of the first trees that were planted once this university was first founded. So if you guys would like to join me, we're going to start heading up halfway on the right side of the gate. So, as we start to get up this hill a little bit, we can see here on our right side that there is a beautiful grove here of trees that look kind of old but also kind of young as well. But what's cool about this grove is that it was planned around 1863 to 1864, right around the time Old Main was built, the original building. And so in here we have Canadian hemlocks, there are ashes, poplars, and beeches. And all of those trees date back to before 1900. There's not a tree in here that was planted before the turn of that century. And that's really important because there's a lot of history behind those trees. All of these trees also were planted with the help of Professor W.G. Waring, and he made a huge impact on the trees at Penn State's campus. So, now that you've seen some of the historical beauty that was planted here 150 years ago, we can start to move up the old road up to the Allen Street Mall. So, all of these trees here on the left side of the walkway were planted about 120 to 130 years ago. They all date between 1890 to 1900. But that's just the old growth. As you can see, a lot of these trees are either missing up further or have been replanted since they've been planted 150 years ago. The issue with the American elms is the fact that we had Dutch elm disease come through here about 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and that was the first wave of disease that these trees had to go through. But then we had the elm yellows disease come through and ravage again. If you had asked people when we had the Dutch elm disease come through whether or not we would be fine, they would have told you yes, we were handling ourselves pretty well and our trees were still living when we only lost a few. When the yellow elms disease came through, we had a horrible time because it ravaged all of our groves of elms. We went from about 300 elm trees on Penn State's campus to less than 100 in just a matter of decades. In 2 years of that span, we lost 86 trees in total, and this is just the American elms. So obviously these diseases have caused a lot of issues and can be stopped, but there's still ways that we can't do anything about that. As for the elm yellows, and so what protection we can provide, we have. And other than that, all we can do is try to replant or plant new trees that aren't elms in their same location from before. As we're walking up, you can still see some of the fall foliage from the trees that are planted, but it seems that only the newer trees have leaves still. It's an interesting thing that happens. As we near our second stop, we're going to be seeing two of the largest trunks of elms that we have in the mall. So this first one that we're coming up to, we're all going to have the opportunity to walk up, feel its trunk, see like what kind of texture it has. But we're also going to see how many arms it takes to get around it. So if I could have a couple of volunteers wrap your arms around. I think it's going to take about 3. Here we go. Just the 3? Perfect. And all their hands are touching. So if all of you guys want to come up and feel it, you can feel just like all the things that have been put into the trees over years. As you can tell, there's lots of staples left. And even though that there's been all of this damage, the trees still stand until they're hit with elm yellow.
When you guys are finished, we'll continue to stop 2. See, they're doing these. Okay, so professors played an important part in stressing about the natural beauty of the campus by planting trees, which are now a lot of heritage trees that we see today. We'll just walk this way. We're actually going to take this path because I didn't expect them to be filming something today. So the next 2 trees that we're going to be looking at were planted by Professor William G. Warren. If you guys have heard of the Warren Hall or West Halls, that was named after him. I'm very sorry. We would have went straight past, but they're filming something. As we take this next left, I want you guys to just look at the 2 trees at the very end of the path, and just look at the very top, and just awe in the absolute tallness of them. Alright, so on the right here we have the European Larch. It was planted in 1860 by, like I said, Professor G.W. Waring. It is one of 6 trees received from the Pittsburgh Nursery. So Pittsburgh Nursery work a lot with the heritage trees. Their mission is to protect and kind of replant everything that was destroyed back then when the diseases hit. And this tree's age is verified at 133 years old. So this tree over here, we actually can come up and touch if you guys want. So this was one of the trees planted when the Old Main trees were all planted together. And this one was planted, like I said, when the Old Main trees were planted in 1906. 1964. Sadly, it's not looking too well due to the weather. But other than that, it is a gorgeous tree with only minimal branches, and as you see, very, very tall. So we're gonna just keep walking this way.
Alright, as we head off to our next stop, I just want everyone to be able to look up at the trees, notice how they have different branch formations, notice how grand the trees are.
Need 2 more of each
There's like berries on bushes. That one looks really cool.
If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask.
That's what a helpful Lawrence.net would be until I found out about it. I used it like 6 times decided to go, but I didn't know.
So most of the heritage trees on Penn State campus are between 150 and 200 years old. Many trees have been planted by important professors, and they've also been planted to commemorate World War II veterans. And we are coming up to So this right here is a Japanese maple. If you look up, it has like maple leaves. They're starting to change color. This was planted in 1900 by Professor J.P. Pillsbury. And Professor J.P. Pillsbury was a horticulture teacher and aided in scientific investigation. And he also helped a lot with plant propagation, which is likely why this tree was planted in the first place. And if you come over here, this is an umbrella pine, and it was planted in 1889, which makes this tree 130 years old. This tree is normally found in Japan, but it is a very nice ornamental tree, which is why it was planted here. And it's amazing because this is a very slow growing tree, so for it to even reach that height is very impressive. It was planted by Professor Butts. He was a horticulturist. He actually built a lot of the greenhouses around campus. He studied a lot of the various fruits and nuts of PA. And something that was interesting about the horticulture college back in the day was that in 1908 only 3 men served on the faculty for the Department of Horticulture, and only 8 students were in the upper classes. And then, if you're interested in reading a little bit more about it, there's a nice little sign. Because it was part of what was called the Ghost Walk, which was a nursery planting for the horticulture facility, which is now Old Botany Building. So this tree was actually at the edge of Hort Woods. Does anyone know where Hort Woods is now? So Hort Woods extended all the way down here. So it was literally on the edge. So many trees were removed from the Ghost Walk because they were deteriorating, and many were removed in 1929. But this tree still stands. And great. So
So as you can see, still feel free to grab any of the branches or touch the bark. As you can see, a lot of these trees have deep roots with Penn State's history. A lot of these trees mean a lot to Penn State's history, and I hope you all can walk away taking more appreciation to all these trees that you learned about today and all the other trees on campus. I want to leave you with a little quote. This is a quote from November 1919. So exactly 100 years ago, from Dr. John Hamilton, professor of agriculture. He says, "What ought we to do? What can we do for the generations still to come that will cause the citizens of this county in succeeding centuries to bless us? Grateful to the past and anxious to show your gratitude for the future, what can you do?" And he says, "You can plant a tree." Thank you.